Rotting Christ with the album Rituals. Wow. For an album named Rituals, you obviously, it's one that feels very much like a heavy metal tradition, either that or kind of a cliche. But Rotting Christ, they are legends. They are ones that have been an important facet, an important member of the Greek metal community now, ever since the late stages of the 1980s. And their sound has actually influenced other bands. It has influenced contemporaries. They are a very important part of the heavy metal puzzle. And that's something that they showcase and actually honor with this album. They actually bring some friends along. They bring vocalists from bands such as Samael, such as Thou Art Lord, such as past members of Rotting Christ. What about Nick Holmes from Bloodbath and Paradise Lost? And what about Rudra with Cather? So we have a lot of people here. And it actually builds up the mystique. It builds up the importance of Rituals, because instead of it seeming like just four radicals or, a couple of radicals that are attempting some sort of evil ritual, some sort of evil chanting, some sort of summoning, it is instead one that feels more like a movement, more like a cult, more like an experience. And that's what this album is. It's the perfect way to reflect it. So Rotting Christ has been a group that's been able to incorporate various things into their black metal stylings. They've been able to incorporate gothic subtextures. They've been able to put epic, as their own label said about Theogonia, in there. Really, atmosphere is extremely key. The way in which they're able to blend some culture, blend some of the local flavor into the gothic subtext, into the black metal subtext, somehow make this weird amalgamation that sounds oddly like nothing else. That's them. That's the band. That's the perfect way to describe them. Rituals goes one step further, though, in incorporating the evil, in incorporating the darkness. If there's one thing that I would say, if there's one way that I would classify this album for Rotting Christ, is that this is a very, very dark album. Dark mood, dark lyricism, dark atmosphere, done very well. Now here's the unfortunate side of a Rotting Christ album, is the fact that most of these names of songs I cannot say. I am horribly ignorant, unfortunately, and don't know how to speak the language. Of all the things that I'm okay with, language apparently is a great thing for me whenever it comes to my native tongue and destroying it. But whenever it comes to foreign tongues, I'm awful. But I will say this. I will try to touch base on a couple of these songs as best as I can. For example, I have to talk about the song that features Nick Holmes, which is one of the lone English titles for A Voice Like Thunder. One of the longer tracks on this disc comes in at track number 7 of this 50-minute 10-track affair, and it just has all of the register to it. The combined effort of him and the band is able to incorporate a true sense, a true level of darkness. It's able to give a pure idea of haunt. It's something that builds upon the already well-established mainframe of a sound that Rotting Christ has already been able to explore, has already been able to display to the world now for almost 30 years. Even whenever we just get started with In Nomine Del Nostre, it's something where the darkness, the evil, perhaps the Satan, the satanic side, that side of the coin, is immediately evident. It's immediately present. And it's one that is not ashamed, one that it is not shying away from display. If you remember, this is a band that famously Dave Mustaine of Megadeth refused to play with because of their title, because of his newfound Christianity. Seems silly, but now Rotting Christ is almost like saying, yeah, well, fuck it. And I like it. I like it a lot. Because that dark atmosphere, that dark way in which they are displaying this, the way in which they're using their instruments very down-tuned, either that or shifted lower, the fact that they're able to use some synths and other instruments in order to really just purvey this extremely dank, perhaps very murky environment, very much old-style, perhaps Inquisition age tone. And then also blending it with the idea of the occult, with the idea of purely a ritual. That is the combined effort that actually creates the mystique behind this album. This is not necessarily the easiest of albums to digest your first time through. And it isn't because the music is ultra challenging. And it isn't because the music is bad. It's instead one where you will want to return to this disc for a second, a third, fourth or fifth time to rediscover and perhaps discover new subtle nuances that perhaps you missed in your first couple of playbacks. This has layers, and those layers all have important, really building block potential whenever it comes to the way in which this music is created. Great example. Cather is featured on a track that I cannot say because I am awful. It's track number 9, and this has purely the concept of a chant, of an incantation, of an attempt, seance, whatever you may want to call it, beautifully done. Chanting in the background, the choir that you hear with the low register, the blending of the vocals, everything is well tailored. Everything fits wonderfully. And then you get to track 10. After 9 tracks of this, what could they give to us? Instead, we have a song called The Four Horsemen, which originally, some people may think, wow, Rotting Christ does all this, and then they decided to cover Metallica? Nay. No. Behold, instead, what they intend to do is bring back something that I would have expected to hear from a 1990s era death metal album. A single toll of a bell. And it's a clip that, here in 2016, where we have all of this technology that could make this sound magnificent. Make it sound like it's from Notre Dame. And somehow Notre Dame has reverb out the ass. Instead, no. They go with a tone that's very subtle. They go with a tone that's extremely fitting. They go with a tone that emanates the same darkness that their music does. And this song is a crawl. It is a haunt. It is sinister. It's great. This whole album is great. 91 out of 100. I'm just going to jump right into it. 91 out of 100. It flows beautifully. And by beautifully, I mean, holy shit, it's dark. It has so much dynamisy and a tremendous idea of self. It is very self-aware. It knows whenever it's going perhaps a little too far and then scales itself back. The blend is very nicely done. The balance is extremely well tailored. The help is something that makes Rotting Christ seem, just as I said at the onset, they're no longer just 4 radicals. They now have a movement. My movement, my nation, Cover Killer Nation, your words, your opinions, your thoughts about Rituals by Rotting Christ, please display them for the world to see in the comments below. I want to know what your thoughts are. And I will talk to each and every one of you guys very, very soon. Wow. Man, it's like Rotting Christ just told everybody, step the fuck up.